It's funny because in Ukraine, when we think of like wealth, we look at those poor Europeans, we think to ourselves, what are you guys talking about? When a SBU border agent over here makes a $500,000 a month. But look, for example, right? Like it's the survival of the fittest. Like, look, friends of Yatsenyuk, right? He had like his friend like had like 4 stores, during the whole time when the whole world was donating, and that's how he was washing his money. So anyway, later when he wasn't needed, he got killed, and they made up a good story, like his wife cheated, he retaliated. We don't need to make nothing up in Ukraine. Our people, we used to take stuff from the Europeans. Or look, we also had a businessman in my town open a really nice like beer garden sort of place. They came in broad daylight and shot him. When people argue, they say, look, the firefighters were all bought out because they didn't arrive on time. Maybe you don't know in details, or maybe you do. That's what I was wondering about. Look, I started to fight corruption before Maidan, and not all people were bad. I had some good informants, some good guys. And when the whole thing in Donbass started, I asked one of my people, one of my informants, we were sitting in my house, and I asked him, listen, what's going on? Why are we doing this when the whole thing with Donbass started? And he told me, he's like, look, gas, uranium, resources, it's money. That's all it about. Because, and look, countries like Germany and other places, they had plans for Ukraine. Look, from what I have gathered throughout all these years, that as a matter of fact, England invested the most and were pushing Ukraine the hardest. And at the same time, Germany realized that, look, I can make some good money, and they joined. For example, like contraband of forest or wood, right? We were around some representatives from Europe that were working with Verkhovna Rada, and we asked them, look, you talk about corruption and everything that's bad over here. Why don't you do anything with the forest contraband? You know, because when you have facts of lawlessness that has happened, and when you represent it with facts, you just shrug your shoulders like you don't know anything. And then, they tell us, look, it's your internal problems. Go figure it out on your own. On one side, they talk really nicely, like they supported Maidan and everything, and Yanukovych is corrupted, but Yanukovych is a little guy compared to the people that replaced him. The facts on Yanukovych. Yanukovych moved like 5,000 cubic meters of forest. And when Yatsenyuk came into power, they moved 25,000 cubic meters. And look, 25,000 was legal, the other 25 was illegal. He was doing all kinds of wooden contraband through like mountain resorts and everything. And one of those, his partners, was even an Austrian billionaire. And they would, close their eyes to it because they would say, oh, look, Yatsenyuk's in power now. As you need, that's how much we're gonna cut. Don't worry about it. Yatsenyuk's in power now. You think that's normal? Look, in 2014 and 2015, a power change happens. But are you trying to tell me that some people from the previous party stayed? Look, a lot of Yanukovych surroundings ran, but a lot of them stayed back. So that's why I wanted to ask, quote unquote, when the power changed, who became the top guy of this oligarchat? Like, was it Kolomoisky? Was it like, who were the people, Ahmedov? Who were the top guys? Look, you named those names. In Donetsk, Luhansk, it was Akhmedov. There was no Russia there. It was Akhmedov. They started fighting in between themselves. They started the war. And later, you can say Kharchenko was from Russia, but they started, moving contraband. There was a lot of money involved. So people, had to pick sides and they were just playing between themselves. Hold on. So you want to tell me now that these oligarch dudes, they had their own private armies? Look, I don't know if you're aware. Do you know about all of the contraband that was running from Donetsk, from DNR? It- You like there wasn't a war; it was a laughter. They were. Remember, they found an Italian guy that was shooting all of this because he was filming them selling things amongst each other, like coal, cigarettes, weapons, and the next thing, you know, contraband of cigarettes. They had an incident when one of the VSU Ukrainian guys got shot. There wasn't really no war. These people were just making their money and they purposely bamboozled people. Look, it's all Russia's fault. Who are you? You know, they just crapped inside people's heads. Because look, even volunteers in all different regions from Ukraine that supposedly they brought humanitarian needs to Donetsk, they all told the same story that as soon as they got there, they were trapped and they almost got killed. They all had the same. They all seen Chechens, they all seen Russian army. And when I went over there in 2017, me and my guy, we went through one of these military stops in the middle of the night. Dead in the middle of the night, we just passed right through because I seen all of them. They were sitting there drunk, and the border patrol would come out with like a face. Oh, stop the Donetsk, stop the Ukraine. Oh, I told him, look, I'm a journalist. I'm going over there. I want to see if Russia's there. So let them tell me all these crazy stories about Donbass. Look, I'm going to tell you about one of the craziest investigations I ever had. And it happened on accident. Just for you to understand, Donetsk region for Yatsenyuk, it was a big hole for washing money. So he would like ask for money to build a fence around Donbass or whatever, and then the money would disappear. No fence, no money. Billions, billions. I'm talking. So Yatsenyuk would give out these crazy orders. So one time he gave an order for forest, for wood to be brought from Bukovina to Donetsk. And I looked at the papers, and everything looked official from Chernivtsi Oblast. Forest is going to come, and this is oak. Oak is going to go to Donbass just to help out Ato. So the route was to Kramatorsk. And I remembered about Kramatorsk. And then after some time, I go to Kramatorsk with journalists. And we stop this truck with like all this, ruggedy oak, Ha 66, this truck was called. So we get the guy out and we're talking to him. And all my guys are like, look, he's a thief. And I'm like, he's not a thief. He got ripped socks, right? So he knew that I'm the one to talk to, right? So he's looking at me, this older guy. He's like, look, man, don't bust me. I will tell you a secret. So I looked at him like, look, man, he's a regular guy. I don't make my money and my fame on regular guys. My investigations, I don't make them on regular guys. I want to bust the big guy. So I tell him, look, all right, it's fine. We're just going to call the cops. And the cops came out. They gave him a ticket for like a flat tire. I told him, look, everything's going to be okay. They let him go. So he tells me he's going to Kramatorsk to a warehouse where a boss is supposed to meet him. His nickname was American. He was also one of this guy that was, washing money that way. But he told me he's a guy of Yatsenyuk. So the scheme was that they weren't really moving the ruggedy wood that this guy was moving, but they were expecting echelons echelons of real like good oak, you know? So I ask him, I'm like, where's the echelons? He's looking at me like, echelons? We don't need, these guys took apart the railroad. We don't even have anything to move it with. So I go back home and I go undercover for like 3 days, you know, because a lot of people knew that I was investigating corruption. So I sent this girl to find out about one of these trucks. So she finds these guys. She asked them, she like, where are you guys sending this? So these guys are like, well, we're helping out the anti-terrorist operations. So I'm like, okay, those are the guys. So yeah, in 3 days I found out that all of these echelons are going to Donbass. So imagine how much money they were washing under the pretense of helping out Auto. They were moving so much, like let's say these big statues, you know, old statues, couple hundred years old, they were made of wood, you know, 50 centimeters and more. In Europe, they were would cost a apartment in Kiev. So that's how they were robbing us, man. And I would always, you know, find these things out. Oh, look, they're stealing here. Oh, look, they're stealing there. You know, they destroyed nature. They were selling land left and right. And later, even Hasovska gas, you know, they were burying stuff there. And at the end of the day, look, they have no energy, nothing, right?
Я хочу
Because they were
еще раз,
sold
мы
everything.
вернемся
Look,
к каждой
I
вашей
want to go
истории,
back
потому что
to every
каждая она
story that you
очень
tell
важная
because
и
every
очень
single
важно.
story
Рассказывайте. Я
is
себя
very
помню,
important.
когда я был в
And
диамантовом бизнесе,
I
я
remember
помню,
when I was
какие-то первые
in
такие
a
серьезные
diamond
деньги
business
появились, и
and when
ну, я
first
старшего Карлу
serious
спрашиваю,
money appeared
говорю,
and I would ask
слушай, а вот
the older guys, I would
оказывается,
ask, look,
когда-то так
where are
засунул,
all of you
чтобы там
washing your
что-нибудь
money? You know, where
спрятать
can I
или
put
еще
money so
что-то.
they won't be
Я
touched?
его пытаюсь,
I
говорю,
like, is it,
расспрашивать,
what is
говорю,
it,
вот
Cayman
Cayman
Islands?
Islands, говорю,
And
я здесь
they
вот
would look at me
смотрю,
like, nah, man,
начинает
it's
делать, и
Ukraine
сейчас
now.
бабки отмываем. Я говорю-то не
That's
знаю. Он
where we're
говорит, ну
washing all
Украина
of our
там
money.
где
It's Ukraine.
вот стиральная машинка самая большая в мире. И
It's the
это и
biggest money
смешно, и
washing
очень
place
смешно, это
in the
очень
world. And
грустно.
it's not
Я
funny.
вот
It's
за
actually
Донбасс,
sad. This
поскольку вы
is
ездили, что я
what I
хотел
want to ask about
спросить.
Donbass since you went over there.
Ясно, что вот коррупция
I
немеренная,
mean, corruption
а
is
с
off
персональной
the
стороны я
hook,
хотел
but from a
узнать,
personal
вот эти истории все,
standpoint,
что там
all of these
дети
stories
пропадали
that
или
kids
там
were disappearing,
женщины, может быть,
that
забирали в
women
проституцию
were
или еще что-то,
disappearing
может быть,
and
слышали
appearing
что-то
somewhere
такое?
in trafficking rings. Have you heard anything like that? Look, prostitution rings, you know, they were flourishing for a long time in Ukraine. That's what Ukraine was famous for girls all over Turkey and Europe. But that's a really messed up story. You know, get girls to like, look, you're going overseas to study or whatever. And, you know, when they would get there, they would get their passport and documents and everything, you know, and this wasn't like regular thugs. It was very organized.
Я вас
Look, this is what I
хотел
wanted to ask.
спросить еще
Um,
такое, я хочу так
uh,
поверхностно
because I want to, you know, I
закончить.
want to over
Вот
just
ясно,
go over
годы
it,
шли там
summarize it. Like, you know,
15-16-17,
2016,
и на
2017
Донбассе, как вы
corruption in
говорите,
Donbass.
коррупция.
And
Слава
thank God that
богу, Крым
Crimea didn't have the same
не было
fate
такой судьбы,
as
потому
the
что я понимаю,
Donbass
что могла
because
бы
they could
быть.
have had the same
Вот
fate. But this is what I wanted to
мы подходим к
ask is we
моменту
are coming to the moment when
Зеленского. Вот
Zelensky,
откуда,
like,
с вашего, вот из всего, что
where
вы знаете, откуда взялся
did
этот
he come
чувак
from what
и
you
какая
know?
была идея изначально
And
у Коломойского?
what
Он
was the
сам
idea
хотел
of Kolomoisky for
баллотироваться или
Zelensky?
он
Because
сразу
he wanted to
знал,
be
что он
president
вот
himself,
заденет
Kolomoisky, or did he know
Зеленского?
that he was going to move Zelensky right away into position? No, look, Kolomoisky, he wouldn't want to be president. Why would he? He's used to going to resorts, relaxing. You know, why would he need to be president? He's enjoying life, going to party, you know, having a sweet life. He needed Zelensky in order to have more pull in the government. So he basically thought to himself, look, on Western Ukraine, I have gas stations and things like that, you know, and I have enough dirt on this clown Zelensky. I'll put him in position, you know. But as they say, they overlooked how dirty Zelensky is. But as the king had gestures and they were all fun and stuff, no one knew that they could also be grimy. And this is when we've seen the ego win in that man, because Ukraine still hasn't seen someone as dirty as Zelensky. Because even as bad as Poroshenko was, he didn't allow himself to do the things that Zelensky is doing. Because look, he didn't close channels or opposition parties, or he didn't stop churches. And look, because I was inside the Verkhovna Rada, inside the cabinet of minister, all of that, they all knew me because I had um so many things against them, so many written reports, and under Zelensky, I would be buried. And I didn't run away. I'm always looking, and I know what's going on. But if I would have stayed back, I would for sure be killed. Believe me, that's 100%. Or I would be sitting somewhere in a basement with
Слава богу, что так не
kidneys
случилось.
bloody. Thank God that that didn't happen.
Над вами я уверен,
I'm
что
pretty
высшие
sure that
силы,
you have higher
которые всегда
power
люди говорят, и
that's
ты не боишься,
over
что
you,
ты не,
because sometimes people ask me, are you
я
afraid or
не на
not?
таком уровне,
I'm not on the level that
не
you are,
замечаю,
but,
если над тобой
you know,
силы
I know
Всевышнего, то
that if
есть ты
the
все равно
Almighty
будешь
is
спокоен.
watching me, I'll
Я
be
вот,
fine.
что мне интересно, вот
This is what's
смотрите, вот
interesting
верхушка,
to
которая
me.
была над
So,
Зеленским, они
all
отвечают,
those people on
скажем,
top of
Западу, да, вот
Zelensky,
приходит
they were all
Зеленский,
answering to the
вводит
West. And now
диктатуру,
Zelensky,
он
what? He
успокоил
comes and he goes
страну,
around these guys. He goes
он
around
тоже
Kolomoisky.
начинает
So
отвечать.
now
Самый
he's also talking to who? Well, I wouldn't really say he went around someone, because if you guys seen the arrest of Kolomoisky, because look, I'm a journalist, and in order to be a successful journalist, you have to learn what? The law. So I know who was supposed to do the investigation on Kolomoisky. So I think that they did this whole show with Kolomoisky getting arrested to show that, look, Zelensky has balls. And second, in the United States, they need to put that corruption on somebody. So they need it. They played this whole show very well. Because I'm always like, look, show me Kolomoisky sitting in jail, that he's all beat up and stuff. I don't see nothing. Under Ukraine law, SBU is not wasn't supposed to do the investigation, and in any court, it's all those lawyers that Kolomoisky has. We would come with a file this big, and they would look at us like, "Who are you guys?" But if you look at the constitution and the Ukrainian codex of law, you know, I would tell them, show me where SBU is supposed to do these sort of investigations. That's it, you know, because you're not competent, and all of this is BS. It's a big show, you know. And Kolomoisky walks out of the courtroom free man. So he's not in jail. Well, look, it's like they did the show like
я понял.
SBU locked him up. You know, he's probably sitting in some hotel. Look, Kolomoisky's not one of these guys that's gonna be showing himself off. Look at Ishchenko. He was prosecuted. He's walking around free, like with a bracelet. Like it's nothing. He came to Verkhovna Rada, so there's no need to talk about any kind of law. Zelensky, with all these arrests, he was just getting people out of the way that were in the way, basically. You know, anyone that wanted to go against him. Like there's a story about this young diplomat that got poisoned, and the rest, like, they ran away. Like, even look, Murayev. I don't believe him either. Like, he was, supposedly running from Zelensky. He ended up in Austria, and but with those kind of money, and then he ended up in Russia. But with those kind of money, he could have helped somebody, but no, he was just sitting like a rat. He came to Russia. Russia didn't accept him. They try to tell people that they're good, like Azarov said, trying to move Moraev into political position. But as far as I'm concerned, they're all zeros. They're all the same dirty a-holes. As far as I'm concerned, get all of these old people out of here. And I'm going to say this as one of the people, a regular person that's seen all that dirt. So F all these old people that ran away, and now they want something.
Буквально
I
два
just
последних
basically had two
вопроса
more
о
questions about,
верхушке и
the
начнем
hierarchy of
интересное
Ukraine.
повашенное расследование.
But this is what I wanted to ask. SVO, Special
Как говорят
Military
в
Operation,
России,
like they say in Russia,
кто это все
who
замутил
started this
и
whole
кому
mess
самое
and
больше
who
было это выгодно?
is beneficial from this? Well, look, first of all, it was to save the people of Donbass. But when Zelensky realized that this was his final chance, that this was his door into Europe, that he knew that he wasn't going to be the peace president, but he's going to make the situation hotter to start hating Russia. And, he's going to have an open door to Europe. That was his last saving him, because during that period, he was doing so much that people didn't like. And remember, he promised, he stood on his knees with the whole Poroshenko situation, and then everything went the other way. So basically, we were looking at this clown and laughing, but now we're looking at him and we're crying. It's absurd. Not one thing that he said he would do, he did. So basically, yeah, first it was the saving of Zelensky because he was, at the edge at that point. But on the other side, is the saving for the people of Donbass because Zelensky wanted to show that he's the big man and he was going to take Donbass under control. And this wasn't for Ukraine because this was for his friends that would make all that money over there. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted Donbass.
Для этих людей, которые
So
скажут, что
for
Россия была
all the
выгодна
people that
СВО,
say that it was beneficial to Russia, what do you say? No, not at all. For the people that really, think logically, they would just look at documents such as Minsk, which stated that, the territories would go back to Ukraine under first Minsk and the second Minsk. So nobody on the Kiev side wanted this. Like, for example, imagine you put two Donetsk guys in an apartment with someone from Kiev, and the guys from Kiev say, "Look, you have to play by our rules." But the guys already learned from Donetsk, already learned how to live differently. They will never accept these terms. So even, let's say, after all Ukrainian election that would vote, imagine if they would present their own people. Imagine if like a vote happened, all Ukrainian vote, and they would present the people from Donetsk. They would be in like 30% of Verkhovna Rada. So of course they didn't want that. Imagine all these projects that they got going on. They wouldn't be able to do that then. And plus, they already had all these things in motion, so it wouldn't go according to plan for them to bring Donbass back. Imagine they already, told people that, look, Russia's bad. And what if people would start realizing that, look, we've been lied to, you know? Like all those stories they told Ukrainian people about the people of Donbass, that they're all drunk and you go over there and everything is destroyed. But me doing my journalistic work when I was in Kramatorsk, I was like, wow, look at how they're living. Why are we being told these lies? They had big houses, bigger houses than we did in Western Ukraine. And it's because these people over there were actually working in factories, having real money, while people from Western Ukraine was all traveling to Europe to make money and were paying off everyone and around every corner. These people would, get arrested at the border, get all their stuff taken away. And the people in Donbass, they were living normal lives. They were working, they were putting money away, they were traveling to Turkey once in a while. And people in Western Ukraine, not all of us were in positions of power, you know, and not all of us were controlling everything. And we have a lot of people That's why it's easier to blend in. So, like, look, in my village, right, had 3,000 people. That 3,000 people, that's a pretty big village, So let's say out of those 3,000 people, like 20% maybe, you know, were living well, you know? So it's understandable, like, yeah, we have maybe more cars, more houses, but if you go to Donetsk overall, with those people that they were working, they were making more, you know? Remember when, while you were telling the story, I remember when I talked to Andriy Horlivsky, and he was telling me the story when all those things started happening in Maidan, and it was crazy that he told me this. When all that chaos was happening in Maidan, he's like, look, we were working, at nighttime, we would come out of the mines to check out what's going on TV, you know, and that's it. And we would go back inside the mines and we were working. While these people were jumping on Maidan, we were working. And that, I always remember that when he told me that, from a human standpoint. So, look, last question about the top, the hierarchy. Are they trying to move Usyk right now to some political position? But Usyk said himself that he's the minister of sport. I remember I wrote Usyk and I told him, listen, no matter what you do, don't go into politics. I just told him, stay an athlete inside people's minds, stay a famous athlete instead of being hated like Klitschko. As don't be a corrupted politician. But he obviously didn't listen to me. He needed money for his silicone wife, and he was scared about all the money that he had in Europe. That's it.
Prove to me that you are alive.